Today, we're talking about 5 ways that you can motivate students to invite their friends to church.
Welcome to the Ministry Coach Podcast, where we bring you weekly tips and tactics to help you fast track the growth and health of your youth ministry, because if you do have growth or whether you don't have growth, you should always have health.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
Very important.
You can just be healthy alone.
Yeah, just you. I have a really healthy ministry, you guys. It's just me, though.
I'm doing great.
I get along most of the time with myself. My name is Jeff Lascola. This is
Kristen Lascola.
If this sounds like a podcast you are interested in, then make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening, make sure you subscribe on the podcast channel as well. Today, I'm really excited about the topic we have because it is about growth.
Yeah.
But it's about how can you get friends to... How can you invite... Rewind. How can you get your students to invite their friends?
Yes. And this was not my idea for an episode. It was actually a DM from one of our listeners, Johanna, and she had a bunch of questions and this was one of them. And I thought, great episode idea.
Yeah.
So thank you, Johanna, from Instagram. I really appreciate your episode idea. It's awesome. So I have 5 that we're going to talk about today. Her question was, how can you motivate students to invite their friends to church? So number 1, this one I think we've talked about before, and it's hard for some people to swallow because you could kind of be in a pickle with this one. But the number one way, these aren't in any particular order,
okay,
but number 1 that we're going to talk about is do not combine middle school and high school. So,
you just
I know.
Blew a lot of minds and probably made a lot of people mad.
Well, and I feel like I probably made a lot of people frustrated because there's so many youth pastors that it was one of my friends. I saw him at the beach the other day and his youth group was doing incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was huge and he combined junior high and high school. I was like, dang, like
So it can be done. It can
be done. Here's the preference though, is to not have them together if you're talking about wanting to invite people. And the reason for that is more on the high school side than the middle school side, but definitely both. So I think like my friend who was doing it, he did a really good job because he had separate space and time for each of them. But his pushback of like a lot of youth pastors is, well, then I'm now working 2 nights a week. So I'm
or
the guy,
even if it's on
I'm
the same
girl.
night, you're splitting up your night and it's like a really long night or something.
For sure. It's just not easy. So if at all possible, if you can strategize, if you can give an extra night, if you can build a whole other team, if you have it in you to do it and you're having a hard time with students inviting friends, one question to look at, it doesn't mean it's the end all be all solution, but one question to look at is, are we not growing? Are kids not inviting their friends because of the mixed age group here? And here's why. I think it's kind of obvious from the high school perspective. The high schoolers that will come are the ones who are already invested in your church and in your ministry. Their families come, they grew up there. You know, their siblings are in junior high. It's just easy. Parents just bring on one night. But you're probably not going to reach the unchurched. They might have a friend who is willing to come with them. But if you're really looking to like bring in the kids like that don't know much about church, if those juniors and seniors show up and there's a 7th grader
or a 6th
posse
grader
there, oh dear. I mean, it's just, to me, not the ideal growth thing.
Yeah.
And it's just not the ideal dynamic in general.
And the flip side of that, though, not so much the junior hires themselves not wanting to be with high schoolers, the parents.
Okay, that was my second point. And we didn't even rehearse this.
Yeah.
We were like so in sync. Yeah, I was going to say, so you're a 6th grade parent, 7th grade parent, you are dropping off and there's giant children there called high schoolers and it's odd. You know, sometimes even like we've had freshmen come with us to summer camp before. It didn't go very well. It was just
freshman because you just do middle school.
Yes.
So that's different for you.
So like because of COVID, the 8th graders missed out on a year of camp. So we said, hey, you can come with us this summer. So then we had 6th, 7th, 8th, and a few that were going into their freshman year. They were way too old to be there. I just am like, I don't think we're going to do that again. Obviously, COVID was special circumstances, but even that age group, that was just not healthy. You know, what the 9th graders were dealing with and talking about and what we had to discipline them for. And then these fresh, brand new 6th graders that are like, youth ministry, cool. Like, it was just not healthy. And I think that you can kind of slice that from different perspectives of where that unhealth lies. But my firm belief is middle school and high school need to be separated for a lot of reasons. Today, we're talking about in the context of motivating people to invite their friends. And I just think if you're having a hard time, that's just a good question to ask yourself is this the reason why? And maybe it's not for you. Like my friend doing awesome ministry and he's blowing up, doing a great job. But for others of you that maybe you're kind of stuck in this thing, it's like, could that be the answer? Yeah. And to look at those dynamics of, are my high schoolers especially inviting their friends? And that could be a big reason.
I've heard a lot of people too say they like the dynamic of the middle school through high school because they say, oh, some of our high schoolers like can mentor the younger ones, which on a surface level, it's like, wow, cool. That is a really good thing for them, a leadership role. But at the same time, it's kind of like those families that have like 15 kids and they're like, oh, the oldest ones raise the youngest ones. And it's like, that's not really fair. Okay, I'm speaking from my heart here. I don't think it's fair for the older kids to have to raise the youngest ones. And in ministry, it'd be the same. Why do your seniors have to not enjoy their time?
Okay, I would push back on that a little bit. So here's what I would say. Take that same idea.
Okay.
Put them on a middle school night.
Right. No. There's nothing wrong with them doing the mentorship role. I'm just saying this is the time for them to be. It's their time for their youth group.
Right. To not
have to be on, to not have to work, to not have to, like.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like. This is their time. It would be like the same idea if you were going to big church and you had to volunteer every single service. Well, are you really going to get a lot out of the message? No, because you're probably volunteering the whole time.
Yeah.
So if you never have that time that you're really getting fed and like, this is my time.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not opposed to the mentorship. I think that's a cool idea. And like you said, if that is on a different night.
Yeah, I was going to say brilliant. So if you're like
schoolers helping out.
Oh, well, then I have to build a whole other team for middle school. Well, what high schoolers are willing to, and I usually pair my high schoolers with a more adult leader, because I always talk about our 2-leader small group model. And so it's like, if I have a junior or a senior that is helping out with middle school, they're usually paired with someone in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever. So yeah. So if you have those, if you're into that high school mentorship thing, just move those kids to your middle school night.
So that they're not having to do it on their youth group.
Yeah.
night.
And you have half a team probably already right there. So
let me ask you this.
Okay.
So then what do you do? I can see, okay, if you're willing to take on the extra work and hey, this could be like, you're going to get a raise out of this potentially.
If it grows, you probably will.
That's what I'm saying. And I mean, you might even get to the point where you're like, hey, we need to bring somebody else on. And that is like, wow, you're impressing a lot of people if you do that. But what happens though, you're doing, let's say, a Tuesday night middle school, Wednesday night high school. Oh, we have one Sunday service. What do you do? This might be a whole other episode really, but.
Yeah. I think that would be the point where, I don't know, you'd have to get creative and raise up a leader. So whether you can hire someone or not, I think you'd have to find someone to mentor yourself, pour into, raise up a director and teach that person how to teach and all that. And not that they'd have weak responsibilities, like they don't need to come in the office, but they would be equipped to run middle school or something during weekend services. And you could
maybe
split
it's
that
not
up
every weekend, but maybe you would flip flop maybe.
Of like who leads
maybe
what.
I'm just spitballing
so like maybe
here.
you're together for worship and then you guys split up for teaching or something like that. But I mean, if you can pull it off and get creative, like I said, and sometimes we as youth pastors look around like, well, I don't have anyone. Well, find someone and you train them, you equip them. And I'm not saying you can pull this off tomorrow.
Right. This is definitely a marathon, not a sprint solution.
This is a strategic move. Like I remember when we just moved our junior high to middle school. So we used to be 7th and 8th only. Then we absorbed 6th grade. And it was like stages of transition to get the team to change the culture and the dynamic because they're younger and now it feels normal.
Right.
And so this is definitely something that you need to be, this is you looking ahead a year or two of like, hey, I want to be in this job for a long time. I want this ministry to grow. I might have to put in the pain and strategy right now of how to split this thing, raise up the team, the people, strategy. I mean, you can do it.
Yeah.
It's just going to take time and people and hardcore intention. But I think this is a growth engine. I don't think youth ministries, to me, it's just not sustainable forever.
Right. I would say too, the midweek youth group program is easier for a kid to invite a friend to than
a
Sunday.
weekend service. Yeah, that's usually like my friend spent the night. They came to church with me.
Right.
Yeah.
If that. And so I think maybe if you're going to put any attention, it would be first starting your weekend.
Start
midweek and then grow. And then, if that ends up being a problem on Sunday, what a great problem to have.
Yeah.
But then I think that would be the next thing to tackle.
Well, and if you, like you were saying, if you end up growing because of it, chances are your senior pastor will let you hire someone and then that person will help you pull off the weekend.
So prove you need A, a raise, and B, a secondhand person or a whole other pastor, you know, to be able to take on either the high school or the middle school.
Yes. All right, let's move on. Number 2, how to motivate students to invite friends to church is don't make church or youth group feel like an insider's club. All right. So students will intuitively know if this is the kind of place they can bring their friends. And just because it's church, don't hear me incorrectly on this. I tend to steer away from hyper spiritualizing things that don't need to be spiritualized because we're not watering down anything ever. Like when it comes to worship, like full out. When it comes to the message, preaching Jesus, gospel truth all day long. When it comes to things that don't matter, that can make us relevant to someone who's just popping in to visit, I think it's important that we make sure we're not hyper spiritualizing everything and then it becomes this weird insider club. And then students know this isn't really the place for my football friends.
Yeah.
This really isn't the place for my cheerleader. You know, it's just
because they don't understand it. It's all jargon to them.
Yeah. So what that looks like is things like this. On surface level, superficially, I like to have a really wide variety of music. We've already talked about that on some episodes. It's not like I'm playing Hillsong from the time they walk in to the time they leave, right? I do not attach my game to the lesson. It is just fun, and let's have fun. We don't need to have meaning. Kind of squeeze in meaning where if that's your jam.
The game is, not to get totally sidetracked, but I feel like the game is to build community.
It is.
And it doesn't, if you can tie it in, cool, but I feel like let that be
spiritual enough.
Thing.
Like you don't need to have a spiritual meaning. Guess what's spiritual enough? Community, fellowship, fun, joy, and connectivity, and walls coming down. That's spiritual. You don't have to put a Bible verse on your game. Like it's fine. And then other elements that make it really fun too. Like I think I've talked about the impossible shot before. We have a student come on stage and they answer a weird question and get to shoot they win money if they can make it. But we like play House of Pain, jump around and all the kids are dancing and the lights are going. And then we do things like, I find a really funny TikTok throughout the week and we play that for our funny video.
TikTok, that's the devil's app.
It is so funny. I love TikTok. And then we'll do like a really funny announcement video featuring a few kids. And so they see kids up on the screen. So we do a lot of things. We have our snack shack and Gaga Ball, like so much going on. That's fun. So we don't water down anything, but we make sure that when you walk in as a kid who has never gone to church before, you're not like, what is this weird cult? So those are all the superficial things. But then more so is the way we speak. So your students will start to understand they can invite their non-Christian friends to church by the way you talk. And here's what I mean by that. On Sunday, I said, open your Bibles to Genesis 1:27. That was our main verse. I thought I pitched them a softball. First book of the Bible, first chapter, everything. I still had kids who had no clue where Genesis was. So what I say to them, all right, Genesis is the first book of your Bible. So go past your tape, because I had kids like in the very beginning, like the title page. I'm like, okay, so like go past all that, go
Says
past
Zondervan 1984.
like go past your table of contents, all of that, and then you're gonna look for the big word Genesis on the top, and we gotta walk them through it. I had a leader walking around grabbing Bibles, and he was kind of helping kids and then handing them back their Bible. Or I'll say, we're going to Matthew. Matthew's our New Testament. That means it's the second half of your Bible. It's the first book. So you want Matthew, Mark, Luke, that's kind of the ballpark you're looking for. We'll give you a couple minutes. So we don't just assume everybody knows where every book of the Bible is. And if you don't, and we give them time and we talk as if we know that nobody knows, and so that if you're the kid who just showed up and you're like, what is Genesis? Does that start with a J? Then you are in good company. Other things like, don't just throw out words like sanctification, and expect that everybody knows what you're talking about. You can say the word if you feel like you need the word, but you want to say something like, as Christians, we're going through a process called sanctification. It's God's goal for us to set us apart, to purify us from sin. And so you start to explain it, because again, don't use these big churchy words that you're figuring, well, if you're a Christian, you know what it means. Even words like holy and stuff like that. It's not like we throw out these words, but you keep defining those so that new people feel really comfortable. And you would be surprised. Kids are very intuitive to know, I've seen all these memes of when you invite your friend to church for the first time, and then it's this awkward face because they're talking about tithing or giving or money or something. And you just have this uncomfortable, sorry. And you don't want your students to feel like, oh man, are they going to be embarrassed or, something like that. And I don't really like to point out new people anymore. I think that was a rookie mistake I used to make of hi, what's your name?
Spotlight shining on, confetti going off.
And I thought it
come
made
up
them
on stage
feel...
and talk for us for 20 minutes and tell us your life story. I'm out of here.
I used to just ask them a fun, simple question what's your favorite ride at Disneyland? But then I realized I think they would just want to fly under the radar, and it also puts the spotlight on, we have one new person. Cool. Where it's just
out of the 5 of you, one of you's new.
Which makes it oh, guy, you guys are awkward. Instead of there could be a few new people here. You don't know.
Right.
So don't just point out we've got a new person. Woo! You just come across so desperate, but just let them fly under the radar of whoa, anyone could be new. I didn't stand out. They didn't make a big, scene about me. Just be chill about new people. And sometimes if there is a new kid, I'll just go up to them one-on-one and be like, hey, is this your first time? Yeah. Oh, we're so glad you're here. Hey, what do you want from the snack shack? I'll buy you a Coke or candy or whatever you want. And, that's how I kind of do the welcome. We're glad you're here, but I don't call them out in front of the group. What's your name? What school do you go to? And, just let them chill. So all of that to say, get away from making church an insider's club. It should be very accessible without compromising any shred of truth, but be accessible where you can be accessible. And then when it comes to the gospel, drive it home. That's an area where it's we don't care what new people think.
Right.
This is the gospel, Anyways, number 3, make it fun and high quality. So our students invite their friends all the time. we have new kids every single week because they know it's going to be fun. It's going to be dynamic. It's going to be multifaceted, and it's not going to be awkward for a new person. So this is kind of the challenge here is level up a little bit. Don't throw your youth group together at the last minute. Make it high quality. Make it something that, this is actually true. A lot of parents tell me if their kid doesn't get to come to youth group on Tuesday, there are tears, like literal tears. And I see some youth pastor memes of like all these excuses why kids give you that they can't come to youth group. And like, I think those are funny, but we don't really have that problem. Not to sound like, cause we're just so great, but really if youth group is like kids will invite their friends if it's fun, if it's high quality, if it's something attractional. And I think that gets a bad word like rap, like attractional ministry, because people equate that with shallow. But why can't you have fun and truth and be attractive and make it something that people want to be a part of without compromising any depth? I think that's incredibly possible. And I think that sometimes that's coming from a bitter place, like, oh, they're just having fun.
Right.
Yeah, we are having fun. Like, what? Tell me a verse in the Bible where fun is not allowed. I think, especially knowing our audience, kids want to have fun. They're at school all week. They're doing homework. This is like the high point for them. This is their break. Like, so here's the questions to ask yourself in this realm. Like, what is the energy like in your youth ministry? Is it high energy? Is there something you can do to kind of spice up that energy a little bit? Whether it's just when people show up, there's a cotton candy machine and everyone gets free cotton candy, or you're making root beer floats, or there's great music on, or there's cool pictures of the youth group and fun things you guys have done going on. Maybe everyone's outside playing a cool game of gaga ball. I don't know, but just something that is attractional. When you arrive, there's a buzz, there's an energy, there's like, whoa, what's this place? And I think that is a place that students will just automatically know. If you love something, your natural inclination is you want to tell your friends about it.
You want to share it with other people.
Totally. And I think we can sometimes, I don't know, don't ever fall into the trap of mistaking fun for unspiritual.
Totally.
I think that is a really prideful spot to be. And logically, it makes zero sense to me how those two things can't coexist. I don't know. I've always got the feeling that was a little bit of a judgmental kind of viewpoint of youth ministry. Like, oh, it's just all games, It's like, no, it's not. Like, let's have fun.
You can take that with everything then. Like, don't make worship super upbeat and cool. Like, make it really boring, because that's more spiritual.
Right.
It should only be out of a hymnal, and there should not be any instruments. Make sure your message, everything you're just reading the Bible. Don't add any commentary or any story or illustration, because that could be like, where do you stop with that?
Well, and to be honest, like, I think my relationship with Jesus makes me want to party. Like, it makes me want to like dance and jump and
I want to sing,
fun.
I want to sculpt, I want to paint,
compose, I want to act. Like, it just makes, like, that's why
there is joy in the Lord. There's excitement, not
like
just
slow worship has its place, but I feel like I'm usually just getting through it. But when it's like the fast worship and we can like jump and like do all this fun stuff, that to me is how Jesus makes me feel. So I think my youth group reflects that, of like, I feel like our relationship with Jesus is constantly a celebration. It's always a party because it's all good, and there's some churches you go to and it's just like, it feels like a funeral perpetually. It's like, wait, you guys remember he's alive, right?
They
like,
mourn their faith.
But it's focusing on the death of Jesus, which is huge. But why is the death important? Because he's alive.
Right.
Let's party, and look what he did for us. I love that picture of the prodigal son when he comes home. The dad's like, let's party, like that's what it's. When you love someone and when you have that whole relationship, it just makes you want to like bounce off the walls. And I think that's attractive to students, you know, they're ready to party. And why not make every Tuesday, every Wednesday a party for Jesus? I just think, I never thought about it. It's a party for Jesus every Tuesday and Wednesday, you know, at your youth group. And I think people want to be where the fun's at.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we don't have to water down anything, but are you still, another question to ask yourself besides the energy and the fun and all of that is, are you relevant and in touch? Or are you guys kind of out of date? I think that is an important question because people know pretty quickly whether you guys are completely passé or if you're current with what's going on in pop culture, in the world, in the trends, and not that you have to be like, I mean, I always tell them I'm not cool, but I at least know what is going on.
I at least know that I'm not cool.
At least I can. That's why middle school is much better for me than high school. But there is just this sense of you still want to be current. You don't want to become irrelevant and let just time pass you by. Especially the older you get, you're going to have to, like I mentioned TikTok. And if that made you cringe, like.
No, what is TikTok again?
The most amazing app ever. No, if that made you cringe, why? Like just skip over the stuff that's garbage, but there's so much, there's like great testimony, there's funny videos, but just
TikTok,
knowing what's going on.
I don't have the app TikTok. People send me stuff and I have to go through like the website to actually see it. But TikTok, like almost every algorithm, search-based anything, will feed off of what you are telling
That's why I get dog videos.
Right? So it's like if you're getting
and
a lot
Christian
of inappropriate stuff.
I don't get any inappropriate stuff. Some of it's like, okay, you're lame, but most of it is dog stuff, Christian stuff, funny stuff. And I could it's hilarious.
So if you're telling TikTok or whatever social media app, this is what I like, that's what they'll give you more of.
So look in the mirror.
Oh, just saying.
Yeah, just saying. But all
but
that
do be
to
careful
say,
because every now and then there might be something.
But the point is relevancy.
Totally.
The point is you want to stay current.
Yeah.
The point is you need to know what's going on. I was reading CAREY NIEUWHOF's book, Didn't See It Coming. And the chapter on staying relevant is just so good. There's a really great chapter on burnout too. We'll link it below. It is
what's it called again?
Didn't See It Coming by CAREY NIEUWHOF.
Okay.
So yeah, he talks about how to stay relevant, especially as you're in it for the long haul. So if you're hoping to go the distance, he says it's so important. He's like, I go on Billboard Top 100 and I just check out what are the top 10 songs right now. He goes, because I don't really listen to that music anymore, but if
I didn't even know Billboard was still a thing.
It is. I found 2 really great songs this week on it. But it's that thing of like, hey, this might not be exactly what you personally like. It doesn't matter. You got to find out what they like and stay relevant. So what are those things that are going on and trending and current? And if the older you get, honestly, the harder it is going to be to stay relevant and that kind of thing. But we have to learn to speak the language of the culture if we want to be heard. So I think some people mistake that for selling out or something to the culture of like, we are supposed to be set apart from the culture. It's like,
so we're supposed to listen to music that I listened to 20 years ago.
Right. I think we always kind of, there's a fallacy in there somewhere. And so we need to be careful of checking our pride. But it's like, well, where can we blend culture and ministry in a really healthy way? And I think that's super possible. So yeah, that's number 3. And then number 4, plan events that make it easy for students to invite their friends. So if you're just doing youth group the same way every single week, never changing it up, why don't you maybe consider putting a great event in there? We, a couple times a year, like to do like competition series. So it'll be like 4 weeks of competition. You're on the same team and there's like some big prize at the end, or a really special Christmas event, or a really special, we do like the Double Dog Dare-a-thon. That's a really great way to invite friends. You can probably Google that. I don't know. We did we do an episode on that?
Sounds familiar.
you like go to someone's house, you invite all your friends, you do all these challenges, you post them on Instagram.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then we have like an award ceremony.
Ago, I think we did that.
Yeah. I don't have time to explain it all right now, but what I mean is you do events that like kids would want to invite their friends to. And then those kids sometimes are like, oh, well, I'll check out your church too, whether that's an all-nighter or an overnighter. We do our Glover-nighter. Making sure you're sprinkling in events that make it attractive and really fun to come. And like our series, like when we do competition series, at the end of the night, I preach a different part of the gospel every single night. So it's not just attractional. It's, we're really, talking about what's important as well. And so I tell kids all the time, you don't have to know the gospel, because I do. Or you have to know the gospel. I should reverse that. You don't have to
It's not that important.
I try to tell them you don't have to be able to communicate it perfectly. Your job in this relationship,
in this season you're in,
is getting your friends to church because you have access to them.
Right. But eventually you will need to be able to share the gospel.
Yes. But right now, I can communicate it.
Right.
You can bring them. We can work together to reach people for Jesus. And I think
that seems like such a daunting task. Like, I don't know what to say. It's like, hey, I'll make it really easy. Just bring them here and I'll do the heavy lifting.
Yeah. So make sure you're creating events that they will want to invite their friends to. And then number 5, have information about your program available online and on social media, because who brings kids? Their parents. So if a kid gets invited to your youth group, as a parent, probably the first thing you're going to do is go and check it out online and see, who are these people? What are they about? Where am I taking my kid to?
Right.
So just make sure you have a presence somewhere and that it's not impossible for parents to reach you. Oftentimes I have a voicemail on my office phone. It's like some parent that found my number on the website. Hi, I was going to bring my kid for the first time tonight. What do I need to do? Do they need to sign in? You want to make sure that there's a way to get a hold of you, that you're getting back to new parents. And I'll often call them back and say, wow, I'm so excited that you're going to be here tonight. I'm going to meet you in the lobby. I'd love to meet you personally and I'll show you around. And I walk the new people around, kind of show them where people hang out and what we do, and tell the parents you can stay as long as you want. Feel free, So anyways, we just want to make it accessible to parents, parent friendly for those kids that are sort of checking it out and their parents want to know. But here's the bottom line that I was thinking about is a lot of times as youth pastors, I think we fall into this trap of guilting our kids of like, you should be inviting your friends to church. When's the last time you invited someone to church?
Maybe not that harsh, but
I hear people do that a lot.
Because they're saying, they're asking, the youth pastors are saying, invite kids to the church. But I think subconsciously the kids are essentially saying, make this worth inviting somebody to.
That's what I was going to say.
No, I said it, so I'll get the credit. 1 point for me.
Is that just consider that they might not be the problem. Well, they don't invite their friends.
Right.
That might not be what's going on. So filter that through the 5 things we talked about. Is there something going on that is making kids instinctively know this isn't really a place for my non-Christian friends?
And they may not even realize it. It might not be something where they think like, no way. They might think, no way, I'm not going to invite my friend to this. But it could just be like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. But if it's just not super like, this is the awesomest place I go to, every week, then they might just sort of forget about it. Whatever.
Right.
Just kind of what I do Tuesday
and then we
or Wednesday.
Sort of expect them to market for us.
Right.
When it's like, but you have to show the value.
Yeah.
And they might be coming because they love you and they love your youth group, but it's not worth sharing. But think about it as like that thing that is like, when you like see that meme and you just have to show it to your best friend. You're just like, this is us. Oh my gosh, this is hilarious. Is your youth group share worthy?
Yeah.
Is it that thing that kids are like, oh my gosh, it's Tuesday. You have to come with me. This is so much fun. And then those non-Christian or unchurched, or maybe they are Christians, they just don't have a youth group, come and they're like, oh my gosh, I totally know what you're talking about. And so making sure that we can check these off our list to say, hey, have I made this a place where you want to bring your friends to the point where you just can't help it? Are kids crying because their parents say they can't come to your youth group? If you feel like the answer to those is no, again, this isn't an obligation. People don't owe you attendance at your youth group. So, I mean, to put it in simple terms, are you putting out a good product?
Right.
And it sounds super unspiritual to say it that way, but at the end of the day, people are consumers, and, you know, to get them in the door, we have to show them this is something you want. And some super spiritual kids are just going to come if there was one light bulb hanging from the ceiling and no food, and we just prayed for 3 hours because they love Jesus so much. But we know the culture, we know kids, and we build the kind of church that they want to come to without compromising anything. Again, there's no compromise.
Right. You actually will get to the point where instead of you saying, hey, invite your friends, you probably won't need to say it because they just will invite their friends.
I don't say it.
Oh.
I do not.
But that's also coming from a season where you were a lot smaller and just starting out, and then building upon building upon building, getting 1% better every single week.
Yeah.
Until you get to a point, you know?
Yeah.
That could happen quick. That could happen quack, or that could happen quick.
Do we have a question of the day?
Yes, we do. The question of the day is, what is a song lyric you heard wrong like most of your life? They're actually called mondegreen. It's like an unofficial term for mishearing lyrics. And I saw someone who had the license plate. It was shortened word, but it said mondegreen. I was like, do you mishear lyrics a lot?
Okay. They probably just want it to be a conversation starter. What's mondegreen? Okay, so mine, I didn't even know. I think you are the one who corrected this for me, which means I was in my 20s because that's when we met. The song by Prince, I thought it was, she wore rags, miracle rags.
Miracle rags.
Rags, miracle rags, the kind you find in a secondhand store. I was like, oh, like they were magical and someone put them at the Goodwill. It's Raspberry Beret.
Yeah, which is nowhere near. But I've listened to it with your weird ears, and it kind of does sound like Rags, Miracle Rags.
Rags, Miracle Rags. And I also thought the song by Prince was Yvette Corvette.
Yeah, I could hear that for sure.
Much. It's only Prince. And then someone said it's Little Red Corvette. I'm like, no, it's Yvette Corvette. Like,
she's a cartoon character.
I thought he named his car Yvette. You know how guys name their cars. Whatever.
It's Yvette Corvette. I'm singing a song about her. Mine is Tom Petty's. Now I got to remember what is the real lyric and what is the one I thought it was. It's won't back down, or I won't back down. I always thought was walk back down. And I walk back down. I didn't know where he was walking, but I just assumed that's what he kept saying. And I went a really long portion of my life thinking that's what it was.
You know the other one? I think this one is fairly more recent, but got a long list, Starbucks lovers.
Yeah, but I heard that one.
Something about Starbucks lovers. Yeah. And then it was
I heard the incorrect version someone spoofed before I heard the real version. And so
yeah.
But I do hear that for sure.
Yeah.
Let's read a review.
Do it.
All right. This is coming from our podcast. This is from Camo Bob 1, who says the title is Practical and Doable. So many ideas to try. Kristen and Jeff draw out my curiosity with each story and example. So amazing how junior high and high school kids can make a realistic and long-lasting impact in their communities. Woo! Bravo!
Camo Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Camo Bob. Or Camo Bob. I just can't talk tonight or any night. But yeah, we appreciate it. Hey, if you guys want to leave a review, we would love to hear from you. Go ahead and leave a review at our podcast channel, or go ahead and leave a comment here on YouTube. And we would love to hear, what was your mondegreen? What's a song lyric that you've heard incorrectly for so long that finally you realize is not true? Sometimes you just flat out know. It's like, I know this cannot be the lyrics, but this is what I know it as.
All you can see it as.
So what is that for you? What's a good song? Put it in the comments below. And thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and we will see you next time!